We will apply maximum pressure to maximize our leverage. That's why today we're moving forward with a 25% surcharge on electricity exports. For the 1.5 million American homes and businesses that Ontario powers, homes and businesses in Minnesota, Michigan, and New York. This surcharge will cost families and businesses in these states up to $400,000 each and every single day. On an average, this will add around $100 per month to the bills of hardworking Americans. Let me be clear. I will not hesitate to increase this charge. If necessary, if the United States escalates, I will not hesitate to shut the electricity off completely.
Whoa, shots fired. That is Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, following through on the promise that he made, or the threat that he made, that if, these tariffs, if they don't get changed, he will, in fact, and you heard him talk about the states that they service with electricity exports from Ontario. And today he put up, after, it was put up or shut up, he put up. So David Heurtel is on the line. Our feature is brought to you by Guaranteed Industries and Can Air for all your heating and air conditioning needs, guaranteedindustries.com. David, I'm wondering, I've been looking for reaction from the U.S. side on this. Have you seen or heard anything?
I have yet to see anything. I mean, most of the outlets I'm consulting, electronic media, online, they're mainly focusing on the huge drop the markets have gone through today. Right. Yet again, but an even bigger drop. You're talking the largest single-day drop for the Dow Jones since the beginning of the year, and NASDAQ hasn't had as big of a drop since 2022. And this is all based on last week's back and forth on tariffs. The markets have not recovered from that and have been made worse by this interview by Donald Trump over the weekend on Fox Business with Maria Bartiromo. I don't know if you saw it, where he would not confirm that all these moves could create a recession or not. He wouldn't go there. And so that uncertainty is basically what they're focusing on. But a very long-winded answer to say, no, I haven't seen any formal reactions on this move by Doug Ford.
So I will mention that interview with Maria Bartiromo where Trump wouldn't use the word recession. He did say there will be a transition, and I think that was probably enough. Everyone understood what that meant. But at the same time, David, what I don't get, and I think I mentioned this to you last week, Howard Lutnick, his Commerce Secretary, I don't know what he's smoking, but the messages from him and the messages from Trump, it's as if they don't speak to each other, or he's trying to protect Donald Trump and doesn't really know what's going on.
Well, I think Lutnick, drinks the Kool-Aid, right? And he's basically there as a mouthpiece for Trump, and he knows very well that he will not say anything that could put himself in contradiction with Trump. And he knows that Trump will go from A to B without telling anybody. And so Lutnick, you saw interviews over the weekend. I saw the one where Lutnick was on Meet the Press on NBC yesterday morning. And, when asked about the tariffs, he spoke for 5 minutes about fentanyl. And it just makes no sense, especially when you talk about Canada, as we all know. Yeah. So he's just there to cheerlead Trump and to keep his job. But right now, it's going to be the U.S. consumer and the U.S. markets that are going to dictate, I think, the next few weeks with regards to tariffs and the relationship with Canada.
So let's move on and talk about Mark Carney winning the Liberal leadership race, becoming the de facto prime minister. I guess the question now is how soon will he call an election? I'm curious, though, for your take, and I asked listeners about this earlier, the idea of who you think is better suited to deal with someone like a Donald Trump. Is it a Pierre Poilievre or is it a Mark Carney? Or are they both not or better suited?
Obviously, it's no contest if you look at CVs, right? A career politician versus somebody that has basically dedicated his entire career to very high-level economics and policy. Mark Carney definitely has the better CV, but if that's all it took to make it in politics, as you know, just in Quebec, just the Quebec government, seriously, the most diplomaed cabinet in Quebec history remains René Lévesque's cabinet back in 1976. So it's not the CV or the number of diplomas that you have. that gives you automatic political success. We just finished almost 10 years with a theater professor, and so the idea here is that I think. Yes, we will have a campaign very quickly. Mark Carney will not take us to Parliament on March 24th. He does not want to get there. So I'm fairly confident that we will have an election call before then. The key right now is that while, yes, Mark Carney and the Liberals have come back, definitely from political death, as you pointed out earlier this afternoon, it remains, the parallel with Kamala Harris is very interesting, I think, here, because when she took over, when she got the nomination after the whole Biden mess, there was an uptick. And then the games really begun. You know, this was a very smooth transition so far. I mean, the leadership campaign was, you know, it wasn't a knockout, drag-out fight. It was very tame, very polite, very Canadian, very liberal. And so the idea here is that I think that ultimately Poilievre, and, you know, last night's ad that Poilievre took out actually shows that he's getting it, in the sense that he starts his ad by saying, I know some people don't like my style. And he started talking about real issues. And I think the key for Poilievre is that if he lays out something that is closer to kitchen table issue and gets out from this angry madman that we've seen for the past 2 years, that has worked, but now we're in a different universe than we were a year ago. If he gets like Trump did, or Doug Ford, you know, this happy, determined warrior, but connects with average Canadians, Carney might have a problem, because I mean, there are going to be some much harder questions for Carney now. For example, I mean, what would you really do different than Trudeau? You're going to tell me the carbon tax, you're going to tell me the capital gains tax, but those are very niche issues, I think. And now it's going to be, well, how do you distinguish yourself from Trudeau? Poilievre yesterday in his ad, you know, talks about the Carney-Trudeau regime. So it's going to be very interesting. And in French, let's not forget, in French for Quebec, I mean, a French debate with a very strong French speaker like Poilievre and Yves-François Blanchet is going to be a huge test for Carney and could hurt him.
You know, I asked the question, David, just thinking out loud, you know, this idea that he doesn't have the political background, he's going up against someone like, you know, Poilievre, who clearly does. I wondered almost if that was an advantage as opposed to a disadvantage for Canadians looking at this.
I think he's very reassuring. You know, I'm thinking about the 2014 provincial campaign that I was part of, when Quebec's economy was in the doldrums, and you remember Pauline Marois was trying to win a majority after having won a minority in September 2012 against Jean Charest. And Philippe Couillard came on the scene as the leader of the Liberals, and he did not have that high energy charisma, wasn't a tremendous raise the roof kind of public speaker, but he was very reassuring. It was le bon docteur Couillard, right? It was, and so I think that worked in 2014, as we all know. And so I think Carney can have that reassuring presence, because that will contrast with the Poilievre we know. Now it's up to Poilievre now, and again, the ad that was put on the air yesterday starts showing that Poilievre seems to be getting it, that his unfavorables are very high, that he's not connecting, that the slogan, the anger, the fear-mongering is not connecting with as many Canadians. So while he's still in the lead, mind you, if he can reduce that contrast and define Carney as, the elites and disconnected, that's what he's trying to do with his past with Brookfield Investments. It's going to be decided on, okay, is this a referendum on Carney-Trudeau, or is this a referendum on how to best deal with Trump?
All right, I got 1 minute. I want you to weigh in on the other story today. We found out that Quebec has decided this is an excellent time to launch a snitch line and a committee to make sure that Bill 21, the secularism law, is respected. Yeah.
This, what can I say? Again, there's nothing in what I heard in today's press conference, the committee, the snitch line, that tells me how any of this will solve what happened at the Bedford school. You cannot draw a direct line on anything that was, because what happened in the Bedford school, and I know we don't have time, there's a report, there was an investigation, right. There's clearly an understanding on how this happened, and there's nothing here. So what you have yet again is François Legault, who is fourth in the polls. If an election were held today, the CAQ would have less seats than Éric Duhaim's Conservatives, in fourth place. And so this is François Legault, because he can't talk about the economy, that's not working. He can't talk about health care, that's not working. Can't talk about the way he's managing government. Saclic is the prime example. So he's trying to, yet again, manufacture something out of thin air and trying to get this fear and hate of the other one, of the other person who's different, and trying to score some cheap political points. But I think Quebecers are sick and tired, because as we see in the polls, Aaron, and I'll end on this, these types of issues, nationalist, sectarian issues, are not registering right now as a priority for Quebecers.
Leave it at that. David Heurtel. David, thank you.